Good evening, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us on Living Waters, falling deeper in love with God's Word. I am one of your hosts, Lauren Cruz.
And I am Stephanie Pavlantos. Sorry, I was just getting it shared to our other page.
Okay. That's your job. That's
I got a little bit behind there, but thank you for joining us in Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And I'm just going to put a heads up. We have lots of new people in our home this week. I see them all walking up the driveway coming back from the park. So it could get noisy in the background, but
yeah. And here it's like 25 degrees and cold and no one's at the park.
Yeah, they all went outside. They have shorts on and they went to play in the park. So.
How funny. Yeah, it's been freezing. It was 7 overnight. So we've had definitely cold wintry weather. But we are live, in case you didn't know that. So we are live after 4 weeks of being pre-recorded. We are live. Right. So
thank you for your patience, everybody. It's just been a busy season, and I'm going to turn some lights on too. It's getting dark here, so
yeah,
but just a busy season, and we're just thankful that you guys are patient with us. So thank you.
Yeah. So I should probably feel like mine's a little. No, I feel like I'm a little dark too.
I have lights around my computer. I have one back there, and I usually have my window open. I'm like sitting facing a window, but it gets dark now so early.
Oh, I know. It's like, it's only 5:00.
Yeah.
Eastern Standard Time.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like last night at 6:00, it felt like it was literally, we thought it was like 10:00.
I know. It feels that 100%. I know the feeling.
All right. Wow.
What do you have? Morning, I'm freezing. What?
No central heating.
No.
So she is in Japan. She always calls it communist Japan.
I know.
She's in Japan.
She is.
So
I do when it gets cold here, I have a little floor heater that sits at my feet. So
I do. Well, there's mine right there.
That's little.
To mention about Japan, I knew somebody when I was in my 20s, and the church I was going to then, there was a family from that denomination who lived in Japan and who were missionaries, and they said it was the hardest job they ever had. They said it was so hard to reach them and share the gospel. They really were not interested.
Wow. I had friends that served in Moscow, Russia, and they said the same thing. It was just hard. And when they came back, they couldn't actually say where they served.
Right.
They could only refer to the East or something. They couldn't say where they were.
Oh, I know. I knew somebody like that too. That was in Japan, in Russia. Yeah. And you have to work. You don't go in as a missionary. You go in as a business person with the job.
Yeah.
And most communist countries are like that. You cannot just go in as a missionary. You go in as you are teaching, you're a teacher, you're some kind of businessman, whatever.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Anyway,
back here in America.
Yeah. Speaking of missionaries, we're in Romans.
We are in Romans. We are trugging along. We're at chapter 6, so we're almost 15 chapters. So we're getting there. We're a third of the way, a little over a third.
Yeah, we're only in the end of. We're finishing up 5 today because we don't get through a whole chapter in 1 hour.
Right.
But it's good. It's deep, and I actually wrote out because I'm gonna be teaching this class with somebody again in
January.
Yeah. So I wrote out a PowerPoint just of the history and just as an overview. And just like I actually wrote at the very end, if you understand who the audience is that he's talking to and what they believe, then it makes Romans so much easier to understand, as well as all of Paul's books and his writings. Because when you understand that that Jews or Jewish people believe that they are saved by Torah and that they believe they are born righteous and will not experience any wrath of God. Only the Gentiles will. Then you understand when he is correcting them, why he's correcting them and why he's saying what he's saying. And so he goes into more of that today in what we're going to be going over, Romans 10.
Yeah.
Basically, starting with Romans 10 to the end of the chapter.
Yeah. So I want kind of piggybacking
Romans
on
5. 10.
Romans 5. Yeah, Romans 5. Paul says, the Apostle Paul was chosen to the Gentiles, but he was not a Gentile. Paul was still a Jew. He thought like a Jew because he was born a Jew and because of his cultural upbringing. Paul could not get into the mind of a Gentile because he wasn't one. And indeed, because of the diaspora, Jews had a certain social conform with them. He had more experience with the diaspora. He was a diaspora Jew.
He was used to being around the Gentiles rather than the people who actually were from Israel.
From the Holy Land, right? And so Paul is directly addressing Gentiles. He uses Jewish thoughts in terms of communicating because that's who he was. And I think that's important too. And you were saying how Romans is to a Jewish audience who thought they were righteous and everything. And I think if you can understand that, then you understand the basis of this big argument of are we under Torah or not?
Because he's telling them.
Yeah, Paul is like, no, we're not, Torah, it's not, don't throw it out. There's a reason for Torah. And he always says, may it never be. Like, are we supposed to do that? May it never be. But he's really reiterating that it's not gonna save you. It's not gonna, make you righteous before God. And if you can understand that, then the understanding of a Christian choosing to follow Torah or a Gentile choosing to follow Torah, then you're like, okay, now I get it. Torah, it's not, I'm not going to be saved by following Torah, but by being saved through the sacrifice of Yeshua and then following Torah, it's making my relationship with God complete. So,
right. It's really important.
And I'm following covenant. I'm obeying. I mean, you have a duty. When you follow a covenant, you have a part to do. And so I'm doing my part. Yeah.
And covenants don't go away. They're not just broken. You cannot break a covenant. And I think that's our misunderstanding of covenant.
Yeah.
Because it's not like a will and testament that it can be changed or challenged. The only way a covenant can be broken is if one party dies.
Right.
And so far, God hasn't died. Yeah. I'm saying that tongue in cheek, of course.
Yeah.
But as long as he's God, his covenants still stand. And to think that a covenant can just be done away with is really a misunderstanding of Scripture and of covenants. But
okay, I know we're kind of going on a bunny trail, but to think that we can cancel the covenant because that's what's happening, right? We humans, New Testament believers, we're the ones saying, no, covenant's canceled. We're canceling it. He doesn't say anywhere it's canceled. He doesn't, it's God is still.
And if you think that, it's a misunderstanding of words. And so, I mean, I'm going to write something on this, but I'll just give you the real short version. But my last winter, I was out in the snow and ice and cold, going back and forth to the barn, feeding animals, whatever. The whole long story. But I slipped, and I was holding on to the trailer of my husband's truck, but one of my feet just slipped out from underneath me, and my dog, who's always by my side, I mean, literally every time wherever I go, she's right there beside me. She in an instant moved her body to be under me. So when I started to fall, I was falling forward. She literally caught me. It's such like a heart, rendering thing. But the Lord reminded me of all this recently. And he's like, it was easy for the dog to catch you because she stayed beside you. And Jesus is not the dog staying beside us.
We're
staying beside
him. Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
But it goes for the same thing. When we are standing and walking beside Yeshua, then it takes nothing for him to catch us and break our fall. That's to keep us from falling. Yeah. And that's why it's so important to be close. And I don't know what you said that made me think of that, but it's about our walk with him, staying next to him. And that includes, that's what covenant's about. I guess that's where I was coming from.
It's our duty. That's fulfilling our duty.
Because my dogs, my husband always laughs when he looks outside and sees, I literally have one German Shepherd on either side of me as I'm walking. And we have 4 acres. So, I'll walk around the property, I'll do this and that. And I have one dog on each side of me. And Mia never leaves my side unless she has to go potty. And then that's the only reason I know she has to go potty, because she walked away from me. But then she keeps an eye on me and comes running back. But if we were like that dog with Jesus, and we followed every footstep that he made, and we turned when he turned, and we rested when he rested, our relationship with him would be so different. But I think a lot of us think that he walks with me instead of you walking with him. And so anyway, that's just something.
That's lovely. You have good stories. I have a hard time putting stories together when I write and think through things. That's a good gift to have.
Yeah, my friend back in college even just said, "You're a storyteller, Stephanie."
You are, yeah.
But I think you're a reader, but sometimes I read fiction for most of my life. I love fiction books, and I think that's where the storytelling comes out of me, from reading so much.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, we are 45 minutes to go, and we're only on Romans 10 and 11.
We will finish live today.
If we don't finish, we're going to move on. So, but last week, right at the end, we just started talking just a tiny bit about the doctrine of original sin.
Right.
And Nettie, we did see your comment how that, it's probably a Roman Catholic but what I didn't know, Nettie, actually, is because I've always been raised with one certain version. That's the one I've always heard. That's the one I've always been taught. There are multiple theological doctrines that have been developed out of this, and multiple denominations. I mean, he even kind of gave a few different denominations of what follows, and I was interested to.
So if anybody's listening, or whoever's listening, not if anybody, but if you have an opinion about what the doctrine of original sin, how were you taught about original sin? Write it into the comments. I'd be interested to know.
Right.
Because he gives a lot of examples in this book, the commentary. He gives at least 6, and he says that's not exhaustive by any means. But he said, this ought to give you some idea of how fractured Christianity is, even in its core beliefs, because there are so many different opinions of the original sin.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, was there anything on 130 or 131 that
not specifically? Well, the only thing I marked, and I don't. This was shocking to me. It says the Jewish standpoint. Okay, so we have all these different doctrines he gave us 6 different ones. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ones. But he said the Jewish viewpoint is altogether different, and so Judaism and Christianity have been at odds on this delicate matter since Paul's day. And in fact, since the issue of sin and where it comes from was already well formulated within Judaism by Paul's era. So by Paul, they totally had a doctrine of sin. They understood what sin was. But the subject is so at odds that Paul's statement against the Judaism tradition believes. So it's interesting. I never really even thought about that.
In Romans 5, 10 and 11, I'm just going to read it real fast. I don't know if we read it, but just to give everybody, remind them where we are. This is the Jewish, what is it called? The Complete Jewish Study Bible. I have it right over there. Right. For if we were reconciled with God through his son's death when we were enemies, how much more will we be delivered by his life now that we are reconciled?
Mhm.
And not only will we be delivered in the future, but we are boasting about God right now because he has acted through our Lord Yeshua, the Messiah, through whom we have already received that reconciliation.
Mhm.
And I thought it was interesting, because right at the bottom of 130, he says, Paul is dealing with all of mankind in general. So he's not referring to Jews or Gentiles here. He's referring to all mankind.
Mhm.
Everyone simply falls under the category of human being, is what he's talking about. The way the world was before Abraham was set apart for God. And so he says that Paul now begins to explain the positive effect that this would have on the entire world, meaning what Abraham's faith and trust.
Mhm.
And so to flesh this out, he points towards a similarity between Yeshua and Adam. So Paul first used Adam, and now I keep saying Adam.
First
Paul
use
first
Abraham.
used Abraham, and now he uses Adam to explain the gospel.
Right.
So, so that's interesting because we can take the gospel back to Abraham, but we can actually take the gospel all the way back to Adam.
Right.
Really. So, so did you want to read 12 and then we'll just talk about
I
that?
can, yeah. And here's how it works. It was through one individual that sin entered the world, and through sin, death. And in this way, death passed through the whole human race, inasmuch as everyone has sinned.
So here he explains it right there.
Yeah.
Sin came from Adam. It went through the whole human race.
Right.
But believe it or not, there are a lot of people who don't believe that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He did put a couple of things down, before you get into this whole discussion. These are like the fundamental of beliefs that God brings everything from nothing, okay? And that God brings life from death. So whatever you believe about the doctrine of sin, that's the fundamental truth that everybody should at least agree on. So
and it's really interesting because he mentions those are characteristics that identify God's nature.
Yeah.
And I don't often think of it, for myself, that, those are characteristics of him, but it's really true. Everything he created was from nothing. So if man tries to create something, we're using borrowed atoms and DNA and whatever. It's everything he's already created.
Right. We're
not creating anything.
Right.
There's only one word for creation, the way God did it in Hebrew, and none of us can do that word. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
None of us can create the way that God created.
Right. Yeah, even when we're cloning or something, we're borrowing material that's already been made. So yeah.
And no matter the artist, they're only borrowing something that they see that God created. So. I thought that was interesting, but he's the only one who can bring life from death. So we cannot. We can't resurrect anyone.
No.
Or anything. So
Frankenstein tried. All right. I thought this was interesting. It says most Christians are caught off guard when they hear that there is no such thing as one universally accepted doctrine of sin within Christianity. And that was the statement that was kind of surprising. Like, I never even thought about it. I've always just believed what I had been taught, and it totally makes sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't never thought. And he just gives a thing. He goes, I'm going to rely on the fine work that Dr. David Stern, which is wasn't he the one who put together the complete Jewish Bibles, the complete Jewish study Bible? I think he's the one that put that book together. And he's going to give us the Reader's Digest version of explaining the various views of original sin, not because it is necessary, but because Dr. Stern explains it in an organized and concise way. So, just one other thing I had on that page 131 before we move on. What one believes actually happened in the garden has significant effect on how we view sin, redemption, death, and salvation. I thought that was important point.
It is. It is. All right. Let's keep going. The next thing he really does is and I thought this was interesting. He makes the comment, and I mean, he puts out these zingers, like, of course, but why have I never thought of it? Like he says, death is unnatural.
Yeah.
On page 133. So I don't want to get too far ahead. Was there anything on 132 that you enjoyed or anything?
Well,
far ahead.
Maybe we should explain the original pollution and original guilt.
Sure.
Because he those words are used later.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's on 132. If you want to go, that's the second paragraph on that page.
Yeah, it says there's original guilt, and this is what condemns us all. Original guilt is what makes every human ever born fully deserving of God's wrath and death. And this is so far from the second we are born. All are born guilty. Okay, we can call infants innocent because they're we can call infants innocent because they are not. Infants have not yet had a chance to commit behavioral sin, but they are still guilty of original sin because they're born with the same pollution stemming from Adam.
And then the original pollution was in the paragraph above that, but he says, as attributed to Adam, original sin consists of two pieces, and that's what. And so he said the first one is original pollution. And then original guilt, which you said.
Right.
He said original pollution refers to the sinful state and condition into which every human is born. He said you're not going to find the word original sin in the Bible. It's not there.
Right.
So we're talking more of a theoretical, or the way theologians explain these things, and these are the terms that they use to explain how we believe. That's the best way I think you can put it. But basically, so original pollution is attributed to Adam, but so is original guilt, because obviously there was guilt there. There was hiding. He knew what he had done. But we're all because of Adam, we all have original pollution, and we all have original guilt. Right. And then I thought it was interesting why he uses the word original.
Yeah. So. Yeah. He just says original is not the original. It can be traced all the way in that it can be traced all the way back to God, the creator, the ultimate originator. God did not build pollution and guilt into all human beings' DNA or into the spirit of life that he breathed into. Man, Adam, is responsible for that. So pollution and guilt were not passed on from God to man because God has no pollution or guilt in him.
Yeah. So it's that little thing 1, 2, and 3 there in the middle of the page. Yeah. It's like we all share the same original root of humanity.
Right. Adam.
It's also original since pollution and guilt are present in every human at our birth, perhaps even at our conception.
Right.
It is original because this pollution and guilt themselves are the origin, the root cause of our evil inclinations. So I thought those were all good points.
Right.
And I thought right there at the bottom, he said, however, the underlying essence of that act, what Adam did, was siding with Satan in rebellion against God.
Yeah.
Just as Satan suggested he do, Adam substituted his own personal will for God's will. So it wasn't about what God wanted. It was about what Adam wanted. And we're still guilty of that. Adam did this from pride, from unbelief, and he shared God's or Satan's desire to put himself on the same plane as being God. It is this sin, or perhaps better, this bent to apostatize from God, is that the right word? Which has been passed along to every human from Adam, and for which we all held accountable by God. So basically, he is giving us what the original sin means.
Yeah.
It's that we, like Adam started it, but we do it because now it's ingrained in all of us to want our will over God's will. And I still struggle with that.
Yeah. I don't want to jump ahead, but it kind of balances. He makes a statement at the end because he's talking about Torah when we get into the end of chapter 5, and he says, the more, I mean, think about it, even as your children or something, the more you restrict, the more restrictions, and
the more you tell me you can't do something.
Right. The more you tell me something I can't do, the more we as humans want to do it. So that's why we fight so much with the idea of being obedient to Torah is, there are boundaries, and they are, there are lines in the sand that we're not meant to cross. And
just like Adam and Eve, we want to cross them.
Yes.
And we're no different.
Yeah.
So original sin is just basically that we are polluted and we are guilty because of what happened in the Garden of Eden.
That's right.
We're humanity. We've got our evil inclinations are in us. We're born with them. And what our will tends to get us in trouble because we want to follow our evil inclinations.
That's right.
So, and he says, he describes what sin is, but I think we all pretty much know that sin is, it's the wrong deeds, it's the wrong thoughts, it's the wrong desires, it's all those things. It's that evil inclination. And he says, what is the consequences of our inheritance of the original sin? Death.
Death. Yeah.
Death, and that's when you were saying death is unnatural.
It's unnatural.
And it's a divine punishment. But death is more than the physical death of our bodies. It also includes a spiritual death and eternal death. Mm-hmm. Spiritual death means we're eternally separated from God. And I think that's the scariest thing that we should really latch onto, that should scare us, I guess. Eternally separated from God.
It should at the very least be bothersome.
Yeah.
It should bother us a little.
Yeah. Do you want to read any of these?
I don't want to go to it. I think we have enough that we don't have to, but to suffice it, there's 6 different versions that he's presented. And he said there are other versions of this doctrine of original sin within Christianity. I mean, this is just within Christianity. We're not going to discuss them all, but briefly, here are 6. And so there's the Augustinian view, the immediate imputation version, the federal version, uncondemnable atrocity version.
Some of these though are surprising. Sorry.
Are you? Which one did one of them give you a pause?
Well, probably like
the Pelagian. The Pelagian is man is born as an innocent infant.
Yeah. And
from that birth, we're able to obey him. However, due to bad examples we see all around us, we eventually commit sinful deeds. And then we die because we sin and we suffer spiritually eternal death. Yeah. I mean, that I could understand people understanding that.
Well, and even the Armenian Methodist version, it's basically we're born physically and intellectually depraved. Yes.
Yeah.
And one of these says death happens not because death has been passed on to us by Adam. Okay. We don't die because of Adam. We die because God wanted us to die. That's how long
it says. It says, therefore, death happens not because death has been passed on by Adam, but it's a penalty that Adam received for his sin. But because of the death penalty, it's been imputed on us by God.
Yeah. Oh, and it's the one above that. It says death is not the result of sin. So that's the condemnable.
Condemnable.
I can't say it. I'm sorry, I messed up. But he says death happens not because death has been passed on to us. I'm sorry, I read it. Death is not the result of sin, but rather it is a natural end of human lifespan and always intended by God.
Yeah, but everything in the Bible says against that, speaks against that.
Yeah, and why did he make them? They did. He told them it was only when they did this that they would die. They wouldn't die before that.
Yeah, he never said, "Hey, enjoy the garden and you're going to die."
Yeah, so these are just different versions. He's got 6 different ones, and he said this is not the full list. But and then, like you said, Judaism, they don't even believe in it.
They don't even believe it. I never knew that. I honestly never knew that. It just says, so what do the Judaism believe about the original sin? Generally, they don't accept it as a doctrine or concept. So I never knew that.
They are taught to see themselves stronger than their evil inclinations and thus able to avoid sin altogether if they sincerely strive for righteousness.
Right.
So righteousness comes just from them striving to get it.
Which is important to understand in lieu of what we're talking about in Romans. So if we understand Paul is speaking to that, he's really, cutting down the idea of your holiness and your righteousness. And yes, you are a sinner. And yes, you deserve God's wrath, because they don't believe that.
Yeah. And that's where the saying holier than thou comes from, I'm sure, because if you have that idea, then you can sit there and say, I'm holier than you. I'm more righteous than you because I tried harder. So we have to be careful that we think that our righteousness comes from us, because it doesn't.
It doesn't.
I mean, now we can grow in righteousness, but the righteousness itself comes from God.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I don't want to jump too ahead, but this is important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm jumping over to page 135 and understanding they what Stephanie said and the righteousness is everything. He said, one of the major reasons why it can be so difficult to convince, especially the religious Jew, to accept a savior to pay for their sins and save them from their sin nature. They believe they do not have a sin nature stemming from Adam. And also, they have every ability not to sin if they work hard enough at it. Yeah. So for that fate, it's in there. And
that's why
exactly what Stephanie just said. Yeah.
And that is why in Romans and Corinthians and Galatians, he's telling them, you cannot work for your salvation. He tells them over and over. He's talking to Jews. Mm-hmm. He's not talking to people who just
not talking to us. Right.
Yeah. So it's getting the context is very important. But I did want to go back to Genesis 4.
Okay, go for it. Yes, ma'am.
So this passage, everybody knows, this is when Cain and Abel brought their sacrifices to the Lord, and their offerings, I should say. Mm-hmm. And it says, in the course of time, Canaan and it brought an offering to Adonai from the produce of the soil, and Havel, is that how I pronounce it?
Yeah. Havel is B or V. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Brought from the firstborn of his sheep, including their fat. So I wanted to give you that word their fat is a feminine pronoun in Hebrew.
Really? Oh, you've looked at this before.
Yeah. So I love this passage because pronouns matter, because in other languages other than English, there are feminine and masculine pronouns. And so when you're referring to something like a female or like a lamb that is a female, you would use the pronoun there, fat, would designate that you're talking about female animal. And then we go on later, he says, why are you angry? This is God asking Cain, why so downcast? If you are doing what is good, shouldn't you hold your head high? And if you don't do what is good, sin is crouching at the door. It wants you, but you can rule over it. Now, can we rule over sin? We really can't. We can strive to do what's to be obedient. But here's what he's talking about, the two its. It wants you, that's referring back to sin. But the second it is a different word. It's a different it's either they're masculine and feminine, one's each. So the second it goes back to angry or jealous or whatever the word is in Hebrew that was used. So sin wants you, but you can rule over your anger, is what he's saying. So it's important to know, and
I'm making note.
Everybody thinks that we can rule over our sin.
Yeah.
But no, he wants us to rule over our anger, our jealousy, our pride, our, fear, whatever.
So how did you figure that out? You just did a word study?
Yeah, actually, I was reading a blog years ago who did a word study on this, and then I went and looked it up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you know? That's true. These two its and the there all have different, feminine and masculine trait, they all stem from a feminine or masculine word. So you have to follow it back to what it was talking about.
That's
So then
awesome.
you have to look up angry. Is it feminine or masculine? Is sin feminine or masculine? So that tells us which the its are referring back
to. Awesome. I'm totally
So-
going to be doing that this weekend.
Yeah.
I got my word study homework.
I didn't even realize it until I read the blog, and then
Yeah.
I started looking it up for myself and realized, because then I went to that the word there and thought, oh, that's feminine.
Mm-hmm.
That says a lot, because in the temple, once they sacrificed animals, they could just sacrifice the males. They didn't sacrifice the females.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, I thought that was interesting.
Which is a greater sacrifice.
It is.
It is.
Because the females give you
more.
Other babies give
Right.
you more.
Right.
We have one male in our little flock of sheep.
Mm-hmm.
We get rid of the males.
Mm-hmm.
They either come meat for our freezer or they're sold.
Mm-hmm.
So, because males fight, they don't get along. So,
Mm-hmm.
just like having, boxing
a
match
boys.
going on in your
A bunch
house.
of boys, yeah. That's great.
So, I thought it was interesting. And then the only thing I had at the bottom of 135, but I know we need to move on. Paul implies that sin did not exist in humans prior to Adam. So I thought that was interesting. Paul implies that sin did not exist in humans prior to Adam's trespass of eating the forbidden fruit, and thus death did not exist in humans before that moment. So.
Making notes in my book.
I'm was underlining things that you were talking about. I'm like, oh, that's good. I missed that.
All right.
So at the top of page 136, he goes into Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this was really cool too. Go ahead if you want to read Matthew.
Yeah, well, he was talking about rust oxidation is, okay. So Matthew, he's making a reference. He's talking about death. He's talking about death and the restitution of all things, that kind of thing. So he says, Matthew 6:19-20. Don't store up for yourself wealth here on earth where moths and rust destroy, burglars break in and steal, and instead store up for yourself wealth in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and burglars don't break in or steal. And he's saying rust is a form of death. It's oxidation, it's death, and it's decay. And so, when Christians describe conditions here on earth, he explains how moth and rust are gradually going to degrade and ultimately destroy physical things. And, then he's describing decay in terms that are suitable for an area. But if there is no decay and no death, there's another term for that: eternity.
Right.
So, yeah.
Because there can't be decay and rust if there's no death.
Right. So I'm curious too, because a lot of people, and I'm all over the place, I go back and forth, but a lot of people are like, well, the tribulation's already happened, or we're in the millennial kingdom now, or something.
I've heard that. And it's
and I'm like, well,
there's still decay.
There's still decay. Death is still very much a thing, and like, so I don't know.
And we don't have trees that bloom all year.
Yeah. So I don't know.
And so then the one thing I have here, because he goes into Revelation 21 and 22, which I thought was really good. But he says, the gospel is, as Paul states, and that's the last paragraph before Revelation 21 on 136. As Paul states, the only possible remedy for Adam's sin is the gospel. But even more, the gospel is meant to reverse death. Oh, and I thought this was so good because I'm probably going to jump ahead, but he talks about that the blood of goats and bulls and lambs, he goes, it could take away the sin of a person. Back, there was a purpose for it, and the purpose was to redeem them temporarily. But there was no gospel, but those animals that died and their blood was shed for this person's sin. Yeah. It didn't change the universe.
Yeah, it said it could not literally reset the universe. The sacrificial blood could not bring an entire new creation process. And I wrote restitution of all things when I just wrote that in my notes.
But it's only God's the blood of Yeshua that could actually not just
reset,
man,
just total
but
reset.
Totally reset the earth and clean it all, like the whole universe, like literally everything was. And I think it's so cool because those get into the verses, which we'll get to in a minute, but what sin did to the entire earth and to all of like even the whole universe, sin destroyed it. Really, it is destroying everything. But what happened through Adam destroyed people and is destroying people and the universe. But what happened through Yeshua makes everything right.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing, because the blood of no other person or animal could do what the blood of Yeshua did,
right.
Is doing.
There's power in the blood.
Yeah, there's good old hymns, right?
There's good old power in the blood. Okay.
Yeah, he said, after he talked about Revelation 21 and 22, he has those verses here. He goes, I took this route at this point because we speak and think of the gospel in much too limited way. We think of it in church terms. We think of it as getting saved and then being nicer to one another. We think of it in terms of how one gains membership to a group. You're a Christian, you're a member. And of course, we think of it in terms of when we die, we get to go to heaven instead of that other place. But the gospel affects everything. And that's what I love that part, because we are limited in our thinking, but we tend to limit the gospel too much.
We do. I do think we do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like reading all this to my husband.
I have all this. It's all marked.
Oh yeah. I had to like keep this is good. This is good.
Good stuff. All right. Well, then we jump over to Romans 12 and 13.
Oh, I know. We're not very far, are we?
I know. We're so close. It says here how it works. It was through one individual that sin entered the world, and through sin, death. And in the same way, death passed through the whole human race, inasmuch as everyone sinned. Sin was indeed present in the world before Torah. And I like this part too. Torah was given, but sin is not counted as such when there is no Torah. So this is a hard thing to it's a hard thing to talk about. But
he goes actually almost 3 pages talking about these 2 verses.
Yeah.
And trying to explain that. And he goes, we have to he actually gives you a little insight into Paul, and I think it accounts in he's going to say it several times. Yeah. But Paul is very brazen, and he makes he says these things.
He's insulting the Jewish the Jewish audience.
And it's meant to shock people.
Yes.
And then he walks it back and says, but, this. Or,
hang on, let me explain. Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets them all wound up, and then he's like, oh, let me really explain more.
Let's fix that.
So this is meant to kind of like really shock us. But see, what happens is people don't read on. They take verses out of context.
Yeah.
And so if you just stop at 13, Romans 5:13, then you think, okay, see, if I don't believe the Torah, then I'm not guilty of the sin that the Torah tells.
And that's not the point. Because and he makes this point, and I'm like, this is so good. Okay, there was no Torah when Adam sinned. Right? There's no Torah. And there was no Torah between Adam and Moses. Yet sin reigned and within the world. It says Adam didn't have the law of Moses, yet his sin changed the entire nature of the world.
And it was still sin. It was still sin, even though he didn't have the Torah.
Right.
But he did have instructions. I believe that God would never he walked with them.
He did have instructions. He had instructions. Yeah.
He knew, because how did they know to bring offerings? How did they know what offering was acceptable and what was best?
Right.
Cain should have known his offering wasn't going to, because he was given instructions. It's not spelled out, but it's implied that he had instructions.
Yes.
So, so this is really good stuff, because he said in chapters 1 and 2, Paul had made his case that it doesn't matter whether the law of Moses was in existence or whether Gentiles didn't have any knowledge of the law, because of the natural law. The natural law is our guide, and the natural law doesn't undo the Torah, because
Right.
those things walk hand in hand. Because the natural law that is known to all human beings from Adam onward tells us plainly God's standard of right and wrong.
Right.
So we have no excuse, and that's what he started with in Romans 1.
Exactly.
Without excuse.
There is those without excuse. Yeah.
So he said we have to be careful not to take Paul's statement where there is no law or no Torah, then sin can be counted as sin, or sin can't be counted as sin, too rigidly or universally, nor especially from a modern Western mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes on to say he knew who he was talking to, and he knew what they would understand. And that's why he even gets into at the end of this book, and I'm just going to read this before we run out of time, because
this is good stuff.
It is good stuff, and there's a lot of meat in here.
Yeah.
But he says, and this is important, right on 142.
What page are you on? Okay, I'm catching up to you.
So it's right above Romans 5:18.
Yep, I know. I have it all underlined.
My conclusion, he says, is that this highlighting he does, meaning Paul, has everything to do with whom he is talking to and what the specific agenda is that he is trying to communicate. Paul rightly assumes that anyone reading his letters is directly associated with the congregation to whom he is writing.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's Ephesus, Corinth, or Rome, he assumes that they are going to understand because he's writing people who should understand the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Despite what the institutional church has done with his letters, and he explains, make them out to be general theological proclamations and teachings applicable to all Christians
at
in all circumstances.
Yes.
That is far from the case. So he is saying we cannot take all the writings of Paul and make them like Paul was actually had an intentional organized system of Christian theology that he's crafting this.
Yeah, that's what we as Christians believe. Oh, Paul is writing this new theology, and that was not his goal. He's not
correcting his Jewish brothers and sisters, and he's also hoping that once those Jewish brothers and sisters are corrected, they will teach the Gentiles in their congregation what they don't know.
Right.
So he's like, this is not a general theological proclamation and teaching that is for all Christians for all times. Oops, I almost dropped my glass. I get excited and my arms start going. We have to keep it in context.
Yes.
Everything needs to be in context. And I can't say that word enough because
I know I have lots of circles and I wrote a big fat amen.
And that is the best point he makes here in this entire chapter. Because what have we done? Paul told women they must be silent. So that goes for every woman,
all time, everywhere.
For all time.
Yeah.
No, it was written to a specific
church.
Oh, and I even looked it up. Like in Andrew Gabriel Ross book. Mm-hmm. Or you can look it up in your own Bible. Mm-hmm. But if you look at all the letters, when Paul writes to people, different churches or congregations, he is actually writing, sometimes he's like, to all the assemblies in Galatia. He's writing to all of them.
Right. Not just the church of Galatia. Right.
And then other times he'll say to the church in Ephesus. Or to the set apart saints in Corinth.
Yeah.
So he's writing to a very specific, because using that word the or the means it's a very specific place. Other times, like I said, he mentions all of the assemblies. So you have to look to see who he's writing to.
Right.
And keep that in the back of your mind that he's writing to very specific people. And he's addressing a very specific problem in that congregation. Right. And I think that's what we don't do very well.
Right.
Context.
So, I mean, think about that. So, you have 4 churches and they're kind of trucking along, teaching the gospel fine. But then we've got a little bump in the road for, this one. Oh, some things are starting to happen. Let me address that. It doesn't apply to all of them because we're all just kind of trucking along, and they're teaching and learning and growing and stuff. But we got one little bump in the road at this church. So, I mean, that'd be like us today saying, this church, you guys decorated wrong for Christmas and everybody now needs to use red, or that's kind of like we're turning that into
right. Or like something over baptism, if you want to go to one and be dunked, or you want to go to another and be sprinkled.
Exactly. That's a much better example than mine.
Well, it's just, that's stuff that people argue over. And so, but it's not a salvation issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a salvation issue that if Lauren and I teach and a man is sitting there, that we're certainly going to lose our salvation.
Right. Or he is for listening to us.
Yeah. Or rookie. Exactly. Yeah. So we have to decide what was a problem in those congregations, what he's addressing, whether it was given for all people everywhere for all time.
Mm-hmm.
But none of Paul's letters are. None of them are, because they're written to. It's just like if I send an email to Lauren, and then I send an email to my husband, I might say something similar, like I want to tell them good news, and so those things are similar. But the other things I'm telling them are personal.
Right.
It's to Lauren and about something that's going on in her life, or something that she told me and I'm responding to, or my husband sends me an email and says, "Oh, check this out."
What questions I had, she's answering. Questions he had, she's answering. We don't.
And I can't say that what I say to you and what I say to my husband applies to both of
everybody. Right. Right.
So we have to really
be
conscious of that.
Yeah, we definitely lost that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought it was, so it's interesting, but he goes on and he explains, all of this. He's even talking about the word, because this was the other interesting point when he's talking about the law, is that Greek only had one word for law.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. Yeah.
And so it is our duty. Mm-hmm. Don't sit there and let somebody else tell you what he's saying. Study for yourself.
Right.
And find out that there are 4 or 5 different laws in Paul's mind as a Jew.
Right. Paul is either talking about Torah or he's talking about halakha, which is the oral law.
The Jewish law.
Yeah. And yet at other times he employs the exact same term, pneumos, to describe the law of God that all men have within us, Gentiles and natural law. However,
or the law of sin and death.
Yeah, Greek is just stealing law. It's just using one word. Yeah.
But Paul knows, and he even makes a joke and says, "Now, why didn't Paul put that specifically? Didn't he know that other people?"
Well, the same thing too. When we say sin, we understand that to be that which is against God. But even within the Bible, there's different words for sin.
Yeah.
And we don't think about that.
Trespass, iniquity, and just plain old missing the mark.
Right.
And again, but just missing the mark is not as bad as iniquity. Yeah. And iniquity is not as bad as trespassing.
Right.
Yeah. So, and rebellion is so we have to, it's not trespassing. What is it? Transgression. Sorry. That's the word. So, so it's really important to know what we're reading. Mm-hmm. But I know that there's a lot of people, you read the Bible through in a year and you're, and it's a good thing.
It's a good
thing. But we're really not studying it.
Right.
So.
Good stuff. All right. Yeah. Do we want to continue reading through some of the verses? I can pick up a few more verses.
Yeah.
Okay. 12 and 13. Romans 15:5. Nevertheless, death ruled from Adam until Moshe, even over those whose sinning was not exactly like Adam's violation of a direct command. In this, Adam prefigured the one who was to come. So he talks a little bit about that.
Yeah,
I'm going to read. I'm just going to read through a little bit, and if we want to pick anything out.
Yeah, because that's obviously Paul's alluding to Yeshua.
Right. And then Romans 15:16. But the free gift is not like the offer. For if because one of man's offense many died, how much more has God's grace, that is the gracious gift of men, Yeshua the Messiah, overflowed to many? No, the free gift is not like what resulted in one man sinning. From one sinner came judgment and brought condemnation, but the free gift came from after many offenses and brought acquittal. And we talked a little bit about he actually uses the phrase much more 7 times in the book. So that's kind of important too. He's got 7 points.
It's like he's talking about the offense of one man, and he's talking about the grace of another, right. So again, he's making this not really a comparison, but contrasting Adam and Yeshua.
Yeshua and Adam, right? Exactly. Okay, and then Romans 5:17, for if because the one offense of one man death ruled through that one man, how much more will those receiving the overflowing grace, that is, the gift of being considered righteous, rule in life through the one man Yeshua Messiah. So all that, he goes into all of the comparison. He started with comparing with Abraham, and went through all the comparisons of how that handled, and now he's doing Yeshua and Adam. So.
And I think it's interesting, and I know we don't have much more time, but this is really, I think, important because I've never heard it this way, but he writes here, Paul says that because death and sin are blood brothers, Adam sin opened the door for the dominion of death.
Yeah.
And see, what happens is death has no power over somebody who is perfect. That's why death had no power over Yeshua. That's why the perfect animal, the blood of a perfect animal, could actually redeem a person back in the days of the Old Testament. That is the only reason why, because death has nothing over perfection. It cannot open a door. And that's what he's saying here. Redemption happens only through somebody who is perfect, only through something that is perfect.
Right.
Like the animal back in the Old Testament or Yeshua in the New. Right. And he says, however, because God offers the free gift of righteousness to sinners made possible by Yeshua's death on the cross, then this has opened the door for the dominion of life to enter. So Adam opened the door for death, but Yeshua opened the door for life. And I love that picture.
Good stuff. Okay, we do have Romans 18:19. I don't know. You want me to? Let's see. We're literally out of time. We have like seconds left.
Oh well, we better stop. We can. Yeah. Why don't we just finish this, because I think it's interesting. But we can.
Okay. So next week we'll just finish these last few little verses, and then we'll jump into chapter 6. So please read chapter 6 if you're going to join us. And have a great evening. Enjoy your weekend. Get some rest. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I guess I need to get over there and find our outro.
I have it.
Great one.
Hold up.
Bye-bye. If you missed today's show and want to watch it again, or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all of the other live Lamb show archives on the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the lambnetwork.tv website. I'm Stephanie Pavlantos, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.